Today, the Chicago Bulls hosted their annual media day, where players, coaches, team executives get to speak to the media, and all the new toys that the Bulls added this offseason get to wear their shiny new uniforms, and we saw plenty of it. Guys, I'm Ross. This is Arturis Fan Club. You should be subscribed because we are now back on the grind, bro. We're back on the grind. Back on the daily content grind, or at least, every other day. Bi-daily? I don't think we call it that. I digress. If you haven't heard of the Superfan Club yet, $4.99 a month gets you access to exclusive videos and shout out to our Superfan of the day. So, today, Bulls Media Day, as you already know, as I already said. We heard from all the guys, all the new guys. We heard from, actually, we didn't hear from Alex Caruso, I should take that back. But we did get to hear from all the guys in the starting lineup of the team. Of course, including Zach Lavine, DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic. Arturis Karnisovas and Billy Donovan both spoke to the media, which is actually the first time they've been able to speak to the media since all of the Bulls' free agency decisions were finalized. So that's a very interesting thing we'll get into in a minute. I think overall, it was a really fun day. We got to see a ton of great photos. It looked like the guys were having a great time. It's really exciting to see all of our new guys in their uniforms at the United Center, hanging out with Benny the Bull. Like, it was just a really cool day. And if you haven't yet, I would encourage you strongly to go to the Chicago Bulls official Twitter page or Instagram page to check out all the fun videos and photos from the day. So, getting into the actual news, the Bulls did sign Daniel Oturu, a center who last played with the Clippers, to come in and help hold down the last training camp roster slot. So our training camp roster is set. Daniel Oturu, like I said, taking up that last spot. A guy who is a good rebounder, okay defender. Not a whole lot to say there. A guy is not going to make the team, but bring him in for some training camp bodies, and that's kind of it. There's really not a whole lot of new news to report as of today. A lot of it's just kind of either confirming things that we were already kind of kicking around in our minds, or talking about things that we needed to hear directly from Arturis Karnisovas and Billy Donovan. And getting into that, the first thing that was brought up, or one of the first things that was brought up, was COVID. Was asking what the vaccination rate looks like for the players and where we're at in terms of getting everyone on the roster vaccinated. Arturis Karnisovas was a little bit cagey about that, didn't want to get into the specifics. He did say they're getting closer to 100%, but as far as the specifics, we didn't hear anything. You hear some of these other teams around the league, some of these other players saying certain things and proclaiming certain things and taking stances and things like that. I think the Bulls are avoiding that. When the conversation came up with Zach Lavine, who we already kind of know is vaccinated, because back when he contracted COVID, the story at the time was that he was in between his first and second dose of the vaccine and ended up catching the virus, unfortunately. So we do know that Zach is at least halfway vaccinated, but when they brought the conversation up to him, he said, I forgot his exact phrasing, but he said something to the effect of, we're keeping that internal, or I'm keeping that personal. So I'm not going to talk about that. So it seems like it is a franchise decision, or a front office decision rather, to keep that internal. Don't want our guys going out there pretending to be healthcare professionals when they're not, which, you know what? I'm fine with it. At the end of the day, I want all of our players to be vaccinated. I don't want anyone missing time, either because they contract COVID or because we're playing in an arena that has restrictions that they are not able to meet. So that is the more advantageous. And it's also just get vaccinated, please. Just do that. It's the smart thing to do. I don't really want to argue about that. But I also think it's good that the team is kind of keeping it in-house and working on it together. There is something to be said for knowing which players aren't vaccinated, so you know which players are at risk of missing games. I do think that is kind of on par with knowing the status of an injury. But at the end of the day, I'd prefer the team doesn't go out and try to say things like Bradley Beal and Andrew Wiggins are saying right now. So just keep that in mind. That's the flip side of the coin of keeping it internal, is that we don't have to deal with that stuff. So I'm okay with it. The topic of Zach Lavine came up to Arturis Karnisovas, and obviously AK says all the right things all the time. AK says they're committed to Zach, you know, showing what they did at the trade deadline, what they did in free agency this offseason. We've been talking about this for months on my channel. You guys know how I feel. It's the Arturas fan club. You guys know. They are committed to building around Zach Lavine and keeping him in Chicago for, as Arturas put it, a very long time. So that is not something I am concerned about, really. The contract situation is going to get brought up throughout the season. We are just going to have to bite the bullet and deal with it. But with that said, it seems like everybody is kind of on the same page about what they want. And we'll get into Zach in a second here. AK also mentioned that they were pleasantly surprised, that a lot of guys around the league wanted to play in Chicago. That says a lot about Billy Donovan, what he represents to other players as a coach, his staff, and then obviously Zach Lavine and Nikola Vucevic and Kobe White, like Patrick Williams, the core that's here, that people wanted to come in and play with. Billy Donovan talked briefly about scheme and fit. He mentioned that DeMar and Zach are great in space, so they want to get faster. Lonzo is obviously a very good passer, and to play to his strengths in transition, they need to get out and run after crashing the boards, which is very true. Lonzo Ball is a very good transition passer, and we should absolutely be taking advantage of that. We'll get into a little more about Lonzo here in a minute when we hear him speak, or when I talk about what he had to say. But Zach was up next, and you know, Zach is our star. Zach is our star. So you go from the head coach and the executive, you go right to the main star. And of course, Zach Lavine mentions that it means a lot that Arturas Karnisovas said what he said during his portion of the press conference, values him. Zach made sure to mention that he is a team first guy. He's very excited about the moves that have been made. You know, he feels like there's a lot to prove with, you know, the rest of the guys on this roster. There's guys who have been doubted throughout their careers. So there is a lot to prove. The contract extension, of course, got brought up again. Zach says not worried about that. He's worried about winning and showing up tomorrow for training camp. So Zach's not talking about the contract. He's leaving that to the agents, to the front office. But at the end of the day, it can't happen until next offseason anyway. That's when Zach can get the most money for the most number of years. And obviously that is what he's kind of looking forward to. Someone had asked him about personal goals and you know, awards and accolades and things that Zach might be looking to achieve this season. I think Zach had a great answer on that. He said he wants to come in and win, and he said he thinks individual accolades come along with winning because winning takes care of everything. So it sounds like he's just ready to go. He's really excited for the season. It sounds like he's in a good place mentally. He sounds confident. Sounds calm, he sounds cool, he sounds collected. And by the way, all these interviews and press conferences are available on the Chicago Bulls official YouTube page. So again, I encourage you to go check those out. But yeah, Zach just sounds like he's in control. Sounds good. Sounds good to go. DeMar DeRozan. So DeMar came up. One of the first questions I was asked, of course, was about fit. And once again, he reiterated, it's not rocket science. He had the same kind of answer back when the Bulls first signed him about fit. He says they're all great players, and great players will make it work. And obviously he is a player who has a ton of playoff experience, has a ton of playoff experience in the NBA in general. I'm sure as an NBA veteran who is as talented as he is, he knows what it might take to make it work. He also mentioned that him and Zach have been working out together all offseason. He said that they've been traveling to LA and Chicago back and forth together, just spending a ton of time together. So you love to see that. You love to see them building that kind of chemistry. You know, that kind of chemistry will pay dividends on the court between a great passer like DeMar DeRozan and a great shooter and cutter like Zach Lavine, finding out where Zach likes the ball on lobs, finding out where Zach likes the ball on wide open 3-point attempts even. So just little intricacies in their games, nuances that building that chemistry will help them become even better at. So that was really exciting to hear. Next up, we had Lonzo Ball at the podium, which I was most excited for. I think, we know a lot about Zach. We know a lot about DeMar DeRozan. I wanted to hear from Lonzo about how he feels he fits into the roster that the Bulls have constructed here. Because it was kind of a question, was like, DeRozan, and we've talked about this recently on my channel, DeRozan is a very good driver. He's a very good drive and kick kind of player, and Lonzo, frankly, is not, or hasn't shown it in his career quite yet, as being the kind of guy who drives the lane and kicks the ball out. So when Lonzo says, which he did today, that he talked to Billy Donovan about getting back to being a more traditional point guard. I'm curious as to what that will look like. He did also say that the Bulls want him to continue doing the things that he's already good at, keeping him comfortable, and that he would do whatever Coach Donovan asks of him to do. So Lonzo has a great attitude about it. Attitude is not the problem at all. I'm just curious to see how they approach this conversation of like, okay, well, DeRozan fits better as the facilitator. You fit better as more of a wing player. I understand that last season you were upset with that role, but look at the guys you're playing with now, and look at the potential this team has if you are not just a 3-and-D guy, because I feel like that's so dismissive. We were talking about a guy who was top 10 in catch and shoot threes last season. We were talking about a guy who was one of the best transition passers in all of the game, and we were talking about a guy who still has those traditional point guard tools in his belt. So when DeMar DeRozan comes off the floor, Lonzo Ball can still be facilitating the offense. I just think when they're on the court together, that's when the ball should be in DeRozan's hands, bringing it up the court. So it'll be interesting to see how Billy Donovan ends up making those decisions work and how Lonzo fits into those roles. But he has a great attitude about it. He said Chicago was an easy decision for him to make. Coming here was he was interested in playing with under Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, and specifically Billy Donovan and Zach Lavine. He was excited to get to work with, he mentioned. So a lot of great things to feel excited about for Lonzo this season. I know that there are some people who are still iffy and aren't sold quite yet on him as the point guard. And I caution you to not get too caught up in ones, like 1 through 3, or, the role of a point guard or what a traditional point guard is supposed to be. I think this team will make it work because they have all of the right pieces. And once again, it goes back to Billy Donovan. It's kind of on him to make those pieces work and to communicate to Lonzo Ball, like, hey, you're going to get a lot of points. You're going to score a lot of points, and we're going to win a lot of games if we can do these things that you're already good at, and DeMar DeRozan can do these things that he's already good at, and make it all work together. So that's what I foresee the next couple weeks looking like in training camp and preseason. Lonzo Ball hasn't even practiced under Billy Donovan as a player yet for the Bulls. So those conversations will happen during preseason and training camp. They will work out the kinks. They will try to figure out roles. So it's not something I'm super concerned about at the moment. Patrick Williams and Nikola Vucevic spoke. Not a whole lot to really get into with Vooch. He's excited to play with DeMar DeRozan again. They played together in college. He's excited for Zach. He's excited for Lonzo. He said a lot of really, really great things about supporting his teammates, doing whatever he can to make sure that the new guys are acclimated well and that he's playing up to, his largest potential so that will make the game easier for them. Patrick Williams' ankle update looks okay. There were full body pictures of him. He was walking around, no wrapping, no cast, no crutches, thank God. He said that he hurt his ankle falling onto another player. He came down onto another player during a scrimmage. And he said that he's never had to sit for an extended period of time for an injury before in his life. It's crazy. He's 20 years old. He appeared to be okay. So everything there, I feel like, is trending in a positive direction. When we talk about the whole 4 to 6 weeks thing, we talked about in the last video, it's more like 3 to 5 weeks, 1. And 2, the other conversation that got brought up a couple times today was conditioning. And so Billy Donovan mentioned it, that he felt like last season Patrick Williams struggled with conditioning. And I think that was a big eye-opener for me, at least. Going back to Summer League, where it felt like Patrick Williams was playing way too many minutes as a second-year player who's already firmly a part of the starting lineup. It felt like they were playing him really, really hard in the Summer League games. And now looking back on it, it makes a little more sense. They were trying to condition him and get him ready for a full NBA season as a starter. Coming out of college last season with a shortened COVID season, no time to really practice, a shortened college COVID season and a shortened NBA season. There were just so many factors that made it hard for players like him coming out of college. He was a sixth man in college, things like that you need to adjust to at the pro level for sure. So definitely something that I feel like is a positive, that he will be more conditioned going into this season. And he looks big, he looks strong. So those things aren't a concern. I do think, looking at the injury now, the timeline that's given, and how good he looks in general just walking around, I'm less concerned with all of this information combined, just because it feels more like they're just letting him rest. Like if this was a really bad ankle injury, I doubt he'd be walking around with without any kind of wrapping or crutches or anything like that. I doubt he would have even been there today, honestly, if it was a severe as we were led to believe initially. I think it's more of a rest thing. They feel like he's conditioned. They feel like he's good. He's ready to go for the season. Just keep putting in the workouts that he can, and for the most part, don't put any undue burden on that ankle. Get it rested up for the regular season. It also gives you the opportunity to evaluate some of the other guys that we brought in for depth at the 4 and even a little bit at the 3. So plenty of opportunities there to see what ends up working in the preseason and regular season and beginning of the regular season, should he be out. So a lot of good things from Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan talked a little bit about bringing Alex Caruso into the starting lineup while Patrick Williams is recovering. He did mention sliding DeRozan over to the 4, which, like, if Patrick Williams and DeRozan are in the game at the same time, it doesn't really matter who's the 3 and who's the 4. Like, their roles are defined. So similar feelings that I have when you talk about like Troy Brown Jr. or Derrick Jones Jr. If you're putting DeRozan at the 4 and you're putting Troy Brown Jr. at the 3, like, it's pretty interchangeable. It's really not that big of a deal. So plenty of versatility. That's why we make these moves. Plenty of depth on this team. And that was kind of it. That was kind of it for Media Day. It was a fun day. It wasn't very heavy. It wasn't very stressful. It wasn't pessimistic. It wasn't negative like maybe in years past. Just a really fun day. Exciting to look forward to the future of this team. And I cannot wait for October 22nd, the home opener, which I will be at. Obviously, I can't wait until October 5th, the first preseason game, but like, I'm gonna be there for the home opener. So I am stoked. If you guys will be there, let me know. Maybe we can meet up and say hi, grab a drink or something. So let me know. Feel free to DM me or at me on Twitter. You guys know, at Arturas Fan Club on all platforms. You guys know the merch shop, arturasfanclub.com/shop is the place to go. All kinds of really cool stuff up in the merch shop. And once again, $4.99 a month gets you access to the exclusive videos, perks, emojis, badges, behind the scenes content for the Super Fan Club members. And thank you guys. If you can't join the Super Fan Club, that's okay. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Those things help me out just as much. I don't know if you guys know that, but hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, leaving a comment, those things all help me out so much. And if you guys like what I do and you want to help me out even more, feel free to join the Super Fan Club if you support what I do. But obviously, I'm still going to be here producing all this great content, even if it's not behind the paywall. There's great content behind the paywall too, but we're pushing forward for this regular season, and I can't wait. I'm very excited. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, once again, hit the subscribe button, and we will talk very soon.